Well, happy Friday, everybody. I'm Nick Slavik. I'm the proprietor of the Nick Slavik Painting and Restoration Company. I'm also the host of this show, Ask a Painter Live. This is a weekly live Facebook show where I use my over 2 decades of experience as a craftsman and a paint business entrepreneur to answer any of your questions. Now, if you're a homeowner, anything you've ever wanted to ask a professional, this is the place to do it. This is an open forum. And for the pros, you know what we're here for. Entrepreneurship, apprenticeship, marketing, accounting, technology, coding science, all that good stuff. Today, for anybody who's been watching Ask a Painter long enough, this is my 100th episode. And being a weekly show, that means I've done almost 2 years of shows. Now, I have not missed a one. There is stomach flu running rampant through my home right now, and I am unscathed as of yet. I'm not feeling my best, but I am here, and I was not going to let the 100th show be the one where I didn't show up. We've done shows from the Canadian wilderness. We've done them from the northern Minnesota wilderness. We've done them from islands in the Gulf of Mexico, and I think I did one even out west here too. So this has been an awesome thing. This is the 100th show. I thought I would bring you guys back to a very, very special place for me. We are sitting inside of a completely restored / remodeled 1880s farmhouse just outside of New Prague. And 2 years ago, almost to the date, I was on this site. I did my first ever live broadcast. I did my first collaboration with the PDCA, the Painting and Decorating Contractors of America. And this home actually won me my first national award for restoration. And if that wasn't special enough, the clients who are actually standing right behind the camera here, they're going to come on in a little bit, but they gave me almost complete freedom into picking colors and finishes and advising the products, and it was a true collaboration, and they really let me flex my muscles on these. I used a lot of coding science, a lot of traditional things here. So the ethos of my business is to combine everything that was good for the last 200 to 300 years and everything that is cutting edge and technologically advanced. This is a perfect project to showcase that. I'll walk you around outside in a little bit here, but we got a full exterior restoration. We have a decorative restored metallic finish on the original tin ceiling here. We have fine interior woodwork finishing. We have preservation of existing finishes from the 1880s on the house. We have plaster repair. We have wall painting. We have some really cool finishes on the staircase to show you here. Everything was used here. We took inspiration from old colors we found when digging through the house and everything. So thank you to the PDCA. The PDCA spurred this idea on. It was the advent of a couple different things. I started talking with the PDCA about some of the fun things we were doing, and it piqued their interest, and they said, that sounds really fun, and I had no idea, because I'm sort of in this. This is just what I do every day. And they said, you should really be documenting what you do on these job sites. At that same time, live video was being made available. So we tried out a bunch of platforms. We landed on Facebook, and ever since, we've been doing this. This is 100 shows. All of these shows are archived on YouTube if you want to see them. Also, the kindest thing you can do for a show like this is to share it. I want this to be a forum for homeowners and pros to share ideas, share perspective, share very specific solutions to business and coding problems so that we can raise the industry and the entire standard. Thank you guys so much for watching here. What I'm going to do is do a kind of dual PDCA contractor question of the week, and I'm also going to walk you outside. Now, the wind is picked up. It's very windy here, so I'm going to be, holy cow. This old house just chimed in. Congratulations on 100 shows, Nick, from this old house. That's a huge, oh man, that's awesome. That is awesome. Thank you guys so much. And I'll be going through some questions here, but basically, the PDCA, the contractor question of the week, revolves around estimating. And this is a very difficult project to estimate, as you can imagine. This is not, hey, we have 2 bedrooms to repaint, just fill 2 nail holes and do the walls. We have, one thing I forgot to mention too, is I'll flip this around quick. The clients are right behind me. I'll surprise them here. But all these cabinets here, I actually had to match a 120-year-old historic finish, and we used a combination of dye stains, pigment stains, traditional oil finishes, things like that. So this project encapsulates a lot of different things, and I'll kind of give you my mindset. So I think what I'm going to do right now is walk you around outside, and we're going to take a look at the outside. We'll be right back in, guys, and then if you want to hop on camera with me. All right, so like I said, it's going to be windy here. I will give you a tour of the outside, and then we will come back inside. And and see this. So one of the funnest things about a project like this is the clients took complete inspiration from me. They actually let me pick the colors for this house. Of course, I had to run it by them, but this is my traditional gradients of 3 principle, where you have one color card with 7 to 9 colors on it, and you basically pick 3 colors off there. It's a very historic scheme. It almost seems like cheating. It's so easy, but they always look good. So what you have here is the deepest color on the color card being the accent, the lightest color on the color card being the trim, and the medium color being the siding color. And these yellow, kind of ochery, orangish colors are something that I see in the area quite a bit. I've seen them on bits and pieces of woodwork inside houses, outside houses, and so I thought I would combine them. And a nice, cheery 1880s cottage like this is the perfect place for it. So what you're seeing here, and I apologize if there's some wind noise, what you're seeing here is a combination of some siding that had to be replaced. I would say probably 80% of the siding is original, and yes, it does look a little rough, and yes, I did use a low luster enamel on it, but being on a country road out here, it gets a ton of dust and stuff. Obviously, Christine's going to come on here, so we'll see if we can pull them up. So the siding does look a little rough. It's also 140 years old, so it's beautiful. I love preserving the stuff. It was the client's wishes to preserve it, and we'll bring the PDCA on here. So I'll show you a bunch of really cool stuff inside too, but this was an absolute labor of love. We reglazed some windows. There were some new windows. Hey guys! How's it going?
Good, how are you?
Good, good. Is there a lot of wind noise coming from my end?
A little bit, but it's not terrible.
Okay, I'll finish the outside walk around and I'll go place myself inside again. I just thought I'd show people, kind of the work that we did on the outside here. This is bringing back a lot of great memories. This is some of the, tree branch. This is one of the first times that we actually did an interaction here. And this was such a fun project. And Chris, I think when we initially talked, I had no idea how unique and how fun and how interesting these projects were. And you kind of told me like, hey, I think people would like to see this sort of thing. So thank you for that.
Yeah. Well, you were doing, I've done some videos and YouTube practicing. It's funny the confluence of all the stuff that happens all at once. And so, yeah, we just kind of just talked each other through it, right? And,
yeah.
I think people really reacted. But, there are a lot of other people doing live shows and broadcasting, things like that. But I told you from the very beginning, you connect with people in a very unique way. You build trust almost immediately with people. People sense your authenticity. And also, you're a good educator. Like, you are able to transmit information flawlessly without missing a beat. I don't know how you do it, I think, because people don't know when you do a lot of preparation for some of your stuff in your master's classes and things. But even when you don't, you have such a masterful control and recall of all your information. It was just a perfect mix, and I think there's a lot of reasons why it's been successful.
Well, and the two reasons that make that very easy is, number one, and you guys know this more than anything else, I love this. I absolutely love this. And also, I used to sit on these farmhouses by myself for, I don't know, I must have had 10 or 15 years of working by myself with nobody else to talk to. So all this stuff has been rattling around in my head for all these years. You came and you kind of took a hammer and knocked the spigot off the side of the house, and now it's just, you can't stop the information. So this stuff has all been collecting inside me for a long time. And you guys are sort of the ones to sort of let it all out. So thank you so much for being the outlet.
Yeah, you mentioned that you love doing it. And we do have Christine has a couple questions we'll ask you. But that's a good point, is because you had talked, remember you had done some education about what if you love what you do. We did a podcast on it. And when you start really putting that out there on the platform and saying, hey, look, I'm in love with this kind of stuff. I want to share this with everybody who's passionate about the same kind of thing. It really draws people together. And, somebody said once that you have to watch somebody love something before you can love that thing too. And I think there's a lot of people who run painting businesses that we're trying to figure out, like, do I really like this? Am I allowed to like painting and being involved in the day-to-day, or am I allowed to like the business? I mean, it's just, we're giving people permission to be passionate about what they're passionate about and sharing that passion. So I think it has a lot to do with that too. So you made a good point. I just want to emphasize that. So
It's so funny you mentioned that. You may have just summed up one of the huge, and everybody always asks me. I mean, yesterday I was chatting back and forth between three people about, hey, what is this PCDA and what do they do and all this stuff. And I say, well, listen, yes, it's a group, and yes, you have to pay some money to be part of it, but that's not what it is. It's the largest group of sort of happy, progressive paint business entrepreneurs in the world, and what you get from there is, I've always called it perspective, but a permission might even be a better word. 3 years ago, when I lost my 3 craftsmen and I was out there alone, that almost gave you permission to be like, running a progressive business, pushing the craft forward. It's okay. There's other people doing it too. You're not the only one solving these problems. So it was almost like somebody just putting their arm around you and saying, yeah, you can have permission to do this. Everybody's doing this, and it's the right thing to do. So that's a good way to describe it.
nice.
All right. Are you ready for the question, Nick?
Absolutely.
All right. So in estimating that old farmhouse, can you remember some of the areas that were problematic or maybe required some special solutions?
Absolutely. And the homeowners are chuckling right behind me here, because basically, when they had me out, this was it's a remod resto. So save everything you can, but the things that just don't work or can't work anymore, you switch them. So for instance, coming out here, this staircase is not the original staircase. The amazing Anderson brothers, they're a bunch of a couple young progressive contractors, kind of like the me of the carpenter world. They came out here and they took an 1880s house and they took a staircase that used to go like this, completely tore it out, moved it to a different place in the house and switched it. Because anybody who knows anything about these old houses from the 1800s, the staircases are just like this. You almost have to use your hands to crawl up the stairs. They're so steep. So they wanted something that was a little safer. And they have dogs and stuff too, so it was switched around. So one of the challenges, assessing these old houses, when I did my estimate and walkthrough, that stairs wasn't here. So then how do you're estimating things that aren't going to look the same, aren't going to be there, they're going to be at different places. We're dealing with the original tin ceiling that needed some repair, some not. It had a ton of paint on it. Half the windows were replaced, half the windows were salvaged. So I hate to say this, but experience really guides a lot of that. Walking through, from doing this a lot, you basically can point out there's 10 things that are red flags that can either make a project like this work or not. And you immediately think of the most time consuming things: window repair, decorative finishes, stain matching, things like that. The wall painting, the ceiling painting, all of that, everybody else is really good on it. But when you walk through and a client mentions, oh, by the way, here, I'll show you this. We have, this is one of the coolest things about the house. The clients found this hutch. This used to be a built-in hutch from about a 110-year-old house. Right here, this is where it ended. This used to go up against a wall in the house. They added this on and created an island with it. So we have the original finish that I doctored up, but this is the original 120-year-old finish. And then this is the part they added on. And when you're walking through a house like this, the client may just say, oh, by the way, we have an antique piece of furniture we're going to need you to work with, and we need you to do a stain match. Well, this stain match turned into about 6 hours of my time working with dyes, working with pigments, working with traditional oil varnishes. We even used amber shellac on this one. So there's about 5 different chemicals that we use to achieve this. And it's, go ahead.
Remember when you did that panel, or like it was a sample board of all the different stuff? Is that what
Yes.
you were trying to match for that? Okay, because I was looking at the video and I remembered that, and that was helpful, I think.
That was exactly it. And the coolest thing about this, and I give my clients heart attacks, because when I match these traditional finishes like this, I use either bright road cone orange dye or bright yellow dye. And I come into the house, and on day one, I dye it all. This one happened to be a bright yellow. I dyed all the woodwork yellow, and I usually get that call or that text from the homeowners like, what in the hell did you just do to our house? And it's actually just the first process. So I usually like to leave the step board in the house, or I walk them through it now beforehand. So, but yeah, all the cabinets you see behind me, those are all brand new. And I use the same finish to mimic the 120-year-old finish on this island. So when you're walking through houses like this, it's very tough. If you've never done one of these like historic stain matches before, you may say, oh yeah, I'll just run down to Sherwin-Williams, I'll give them a piece of this wood and they'll match it. Well, that can turn into 6 hours of shop time to do that. So items like that make or break projects like this. Wall painting, plaster repair, fairly easy. Everything else was fairly good. There's a huge mix of old woodwork and new woodwork. So being honest with the client is probably, I mean, obviously knowing your finishes, but being honest with the client and say, listen, I'm going to estimate all the knowns here. Here are the rest of the variables, or here is a time and material budget, and being honest with them and just saying, you know, these 3 areas, you know, window repair, historic stain matching, and possibly, you know, whatever you guys end up choosing for enamel on the stairwell here could be big variables in the project, and it could change. And if they're amenable to having sort of a flexible sort of budget, you can do that. Go ahead. Sorry, Chris.
No, I don't want to interrupt you because there's a little bit of a delay. So I figured I'd just give you some motion there. You know, I know that this is estimating month at PDCA, and that's probably, I mean, a little bit why we pick these questions. But, you know, you talked about being honest with the homeowner and the client. When you are offering them something where you're saying, here's the knowns, and in this unknown here, I'm just going to have to, like, we're going to update it as we go through the process or whatever, and keep being honest with you. Are there some methods that help facilitate that process? And, you know, in other words, when people come up to that, they're a little bit worried about, like, man, that's when the sale's going to fall through, or, you know, how would you advise people to go through that to continue to build that trust and to also give them enough confidence that you're being honest with them, to give them enough numbers to say, like, I'll give you everything that I have, and when I know what the number is, that you can trust that it's going to be the right number. How do you help people go through that process of the vagueness and ambiguity?
Absolutely. And you know what, I like to, it's a decision-making process that I use called bookending, where if you don't know what something is going to take, like, you know, you take a tin ceiling here, once you get some of the old paint off, you don't know how much rust or scale or anything is under there. You don't know what the end finish is going to be because they haven't decided yet. And you're sort of, it's up in the air. What you do is a method called bookending, where you find the extremes. You say, okay, what's the least I could do to this? Well, you could just spray 1 coat of paint on it. And what's the most you could do to it? Well, we could strip all the paint off. We could underbody it. We could put 2 coats of enamel. We could do a decorative finish and a glaze. And right there's really nothing more you can do or less that you could do to that ceiling. So you can take your lowest and your highest and basically say, well, explain that to the client. Here are your options. And that's another part of being open and honest is, as the contractor, you don't have to make all the decisions. What I like to do is lay out a series of options for homeowners, and then make them make the decision, because then the decision will be right, because you can't really read their minds a lot of the time. So you can give them options. And I think we actually went through this where I could just paint this ceiling, or I could do nothing to it. I could clean it up. I could clear coat it. We could paint it. We could do a metallic finish, or like we did do, we could do a distressed metallic finish. And each one of those had a different option for it. And the last linchpin, like I said, is having the clients make the decision, because then it's going to be the right decision.
You know, while you're on that, I don't mean to take up any of your time, but, you know, I think people can smell desperation a mile away when you absolutely need the business and you need to get the highest end, you know, sale that you could possibly get. I had a plumber not too long ago bid some stuff in my house, and it was obviously the most that they could possibly charge me. I felt like, dude, is your business getting ready to crash? And I had somebody do it for 1/3 of the price. Now, It was a very professional company. I mean, I knew they were getting paid well. I mean, for what, but they just didn't need to do all that. Or especially the guy didn't give me choices. Like you're talking about the spectrum of choices, where they really would put the control in the customer's hands to say, hey, I'm not going to lose control of this at any point. But, you know, that ability to be able to say, I don't need your business. Here's an opportunity for you to get some work done in your house. Here's what I would charge, but I'm not desperate for your business. Because that's it. When you catch that desperation, I heard somebody talking about relationships recently, and they were saying, somebody was saying, like, you know, I just don't care. If I lose the relationship, it's no big deal. And that's how they won the relationship. You know? So truly, it's the same in sales and in business relationships and customer business relationships, that it seems to me that's one thing to do really well is like, hey, look, I could do other things with my life and my business. I'm giving you an opportunity to get work done that you need, you know, especially in a house like that. You don't want to screw it up. Nobody wants to everybody's kind of scared going. And so you're saying, I'm not coming in to touch anything. If you guys don't want it, here's some options, but you're in control. But when you put them in control and they trust you, boy, they want to invite you in to do more stuff, right?
Well, and immediately, with a project like this, I can think back to only a few projects in my entire career where the clients have seemingly just trusted me the whole way. And it starts from the second you start estimating. And you hate to say that experience, because nobody wants to rely on experiential estimating. But if you have the choice of using experience or not, everybody would use experience. And when I create an estimate for the clients here, what I do is a huge spreadsheet, and every room has a price per ceiling, per closet, per walls, per trim, any other things in there, window repair, so that in a job like this, I want it to be cafeteria style, where they can walk through and everything has a price. At the end of the project, you just start circling the things you did, complete transparency, and that, I believe, is what led to them sort of letting me flex my muscles on this job and sort of just input a lot of the historic knowledge I have along with the technology. So it's all about that trust there. Yeah.
And passion.
So one more question we have for you. So
Yeah.
what liabilities do you have? Sorry. So what liabilities did you have to raise your prices for, considering that this is a historical project? How did you determine that?
There's, again, just like I love the bookending sort of method of making decisions where, when you come up with an estimate for a job like this, you always take into account your labor and material rate. You always take into account what you have to make just to keep the lights on your business. And then you also have to say, what is the market rate of something like this? Is it possible to find somebody to do historic wood restoration, stain matches, decorative finishes on tin, plaster repair, window repair, things like that? And the thing that I still wrestle with about that is, this is a local project for me. I always try to be fair about it. So when I go up to St. Paul or Minneapolis to do a job, yes, there's going to be a little travel time built in, but I really want people to have a straight across the board, honest estimate. And this is what it costs. I don't charge more when you go into a wealthier neighborhood, things like that. I really try to be honest about it. And it served me well because most contractors, 80 to 90% of their work is referrals. And the last thing I want to do is get a reputation for either Nick just works for rich people or Nick gouged a rich person or something like that. So knowing your numbers, I have huge comfort in the numbers. You wouldn't think so from talking to me much, but I am huge on analytics, huge on numbers, and I find great comfort in them. And knowing those numbers allows you to walk into a project like this and break it down into 220 separate elements. And you may say, oh my God, I have no idea. There's 35 windows in this house. Some are new, some are old. How do you price it? Well, if you go by each window and give each window a price, then it's not so daunting anymore. So that's how I kind of approach it.
I got a question for you. How's everything holding up? I mean, how's the paint job and staining and everything? How's it all holding up?
Remarkably well, especially out here on gravel road and stuff. I used a Benjamin Moore Aura, low luster on the outside, and it's a washable paint too. For the historic homes, I usually like a flatter paint, but the siding is about 130, 140 years old, and they have a gravel road out front, so I wanted them to have the ability to wash it. And one of the things I was so curious about, I ran to when they let me into the house was this stairway, and this is the first stairwell I had ever enameled with Benjamin Moore Advance enamel. And they've been living here for a couple years in the house. They have huge dogs. How many dogs do you guys have? 4 monstrous dogs. And yes, there are some scratches on the wood there, but that held up as well as any epoxy, any floor enamel that I've used. So that was my first experiment with that. And honestly, I gotta say, especially the wood finishes too, the traditional oil varnishes that I use, I mean, they are as clean and as bright and as vibrant as the day I left. So I'm very pleased with how this turned out.
How often do you have to check on a project like that? Like how often?
I wait to hear from the clients. On projects like this, especially around New Prague, I circulate so much around town that if I see, like there was a house, I think once in 10 years, the last 10 years, I've had a failure for fading. It was a brand new sided house. We painted it this color, and within a year or two, it horribly faded. And you know, the clients were being real sort of nice and not calling me because like, oh, we don't want to bug you, but I just drove by and saw that it started fading. So I got my rep included in it, and they're actually the paint company's repaying me to paint the house. So for my local people that I see every day, I'm very proactive. If I see something that needs to be done, I'll just, especially if something's a little out of, you know, every house takes maintenance, but if something is a brand new sided house that fades in a year and a half, I'm on it before the client is.
Hey, how's that? Talk about the stairs and some of the scratches and stuff in the doors. How does that Advance touch up?
Really, and you know what the awesome thing about Advance is you can touch it up by hand. So it's not like lacquers and things where you'd have to come in and quarantine the house out, get all the hazmat gear on and spray. This stuff, even the clients can just take a brush and a can and hit it, and it levels out so nice that it's a great product. So that's one of the benefits of using something like that.
Hey, we may have been getting set up, but did you look through that tent? Did you show that tin roof or a tin ceiling in there?
No, we're actually going to do a interior walkthrough here as soon as we're done with you guys, and I'm going to point out all the fun stuff that happened on this job.
Well, thanks for having us, Nick. I keep wanting to say happy birthday, but happy birthday to ask there, I guess.
No, that's awesome. And you know what? I mean, obviously, you guys know how grateful I am to you, but you guys are the standard bearers of the industry. You allow progressive paint business entrepreneurs to share all their knowledge. And honestly, in the last 3 years, you guys have seen what has happened to my business. And if there was ever a testament to what you guys are capable of and what you guys devote your time to, it's whatever's been happening to my business in the last 3 years. So thank you. It's been life-changing.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good weekend, guys. I'm going to do a house tour.
Thank you.
All right. Beat it. Okay, so I'm going to take you guys through the house here. We have entryway here. Some beautiful, beautiful